We kick off the State of the Franchise series where we look at the entire Pacific Division, get to know what's happening throughout the Pacific Division with our friend Jess from Locked On Flames and what was a very eventful offseason in Calgary. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now and Inside the Rink. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day, or at least 3 days a week right now while we're in off-season mode. If you want to be in every day, all you got to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And I'm joined by Jess, who kicked off last year. It was Get to Know the Enemy. This year, rebranded it. It is State of the Franchise, and we're going to State of the Franchise with the Flames. Jess, how are you doing, my friend?
A lot better than the Flames. Pretty well, actually enjoying and doing things with my summer. So, I'd call it productive.
Productive. I guess we'll start there. The Flames had a productive offseason if you're of one school of mind and if that school of mind is change. So the Flames, let's start. Last year, they ended the season fifth in the Pacific, 93 points, just missed the playoffs. And then they cleaned house, I guess would be the best way to put it. Sharks fans know that we were in this position 1 year ago. So Jess, let's start with that question. What is the state of the Calgary Flames heading into this season?
At least, right now at this very moment while we're recording, I would say uncertainty.
Okay.
Just because, there is a whole new front office and coach and a lot of supposedly moving parts with the roster, but there hasn't been any roster moves really other than Tyler Toffoli moving. And but I think the overwhelming positivity that Flames fans felt April, May, June even, it's worn off, I think, just because of there really hasn't been any movement. We don't know if Elias Lindholm is going to sign long-term or if he wants out. Noah Hannafin, still a member of the Flames. Same with Dan Vladar, who I thought would have at least been moved at the draft. It's a good time for things to be quiet, I guess, because Craig Connery does have a lot of messes to clean up that weren't his messes.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned, right, you have a new GM and a new coach and all that, Daryl Sutter, there was a lot of smoke and flames about the friction between his very abrasive coaching style and the team that was there. A lot of players asked for trades, and then as soon as he left, they rescinded those trade requests. It's feels like it's kind of a mess in Calgary, right? Is that a fair, or at least like you said, there's a lot of messes that they're trying to clean up right now. Is that a fair assumption of the team right now, is trying to kind of figure out what this team is?
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like trying to figure out this team's identity is just a constant theme. And it's so unfortunate because in my 4 seasons of covering the team, sorry, my cat is playing very aggressively with his mouse. But they haven't had an identity. There have been moments where you're like, this is it. But there isn't anything. There are just so many messes that can't just be swept under the rug anymore. It's time to really, figure out what the organization is and how do you want to move forward with it.
So, because there's been talk, is this a team that could be looking at a potential long rebuild, or do you think they're going to try to go and maybe into the season, kind of like take a page out of the Sharks playbook of like, let's see what we got, and then maybe we can try to reload on the fly. But as you guys know, now with Sharks fans, you basically wasted 3 years, and now we're actually fully earnest in year 3 build. Is this feel like that could be a where the Flames are headed? Of like, you have some good pieces and some guys who are kind of in their prime right now, and maybe if you add a couple guys here or there, you could be looking at in the Pacific Division, it's going to be very tight in the middle again, I feel. Then we'll get to the Pacific here in a little bit, but like, is that just going to be the question of what this season is maybe kind of just testing the waters and kind of seeing what happens?
I think so. In Craig Conroy's introductory presser, or even before that, I think when Don Maloney technically took over, he said that they're not looking to rebuild. Like, they're avoiding that word, but they can't avoid it any longer. This organization hasn't done a true rebuild. I was talking with some Flames fans, lifelong Flames fans, and they're like, yeah, no, this has just been my life for 20 something years. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. So it doesn't get better. But no, I think that they have tried very light emphasis on, they've attempted to retool on the fly.
Yeah.
And it hasn't paid off. And I think a lot of that does have to do with their prospect pool and their drafting abilities. And again, Brad Treliving's decade-long mess that now we're all left to clean up.
Sharks fans know exactly what you're talking about. As Mike Greer has been trying to clean up, you're competitive for a long time, right? And the Flames have been a relatively competitive team, maybe not as a Stanley Cup caliber team, but they've been mixed in with the playoffs and stuff. And Sharks fans, we know, right? We've spent 15 years of being a very competitive team, and at some point the bill does have to come due for that. So, what is the biggest storyline of the offseason, would you say, for the Flames?
Is Elias Lindholm staying, or is he going? And it's August, and we still don't have an answer. So
Eric Carlson says hi, too.
Yeah, I think both of them are probably sitting somewhere in Sweden right now, just being like, oh, what do we do?
Yeah. So do you think that this will get resolved before the season starts, or do you think this is going to be one of those into the season, kind of hanging over the season, Lindholm's decision?
I think that this is going to be something that could be here up until the trade deadline. Honestly, I feel like Conroy laid his cards out on the table, and the 2024 pending UFAs are going to use that to their advantage. You don't want me to walk? Well, you're going to have to trade me somewhere good. And those teams, they might not have an offer. They might not be able to take on, a rental, or they aren't certain if there's going to be that extension and what have you. But I feel like I love Elias Lindholm, and I understand there's the human element to the game, but there's also the business side of things, and the clock is running out.
Yeah, I mean, he's turning 29 this season, and I assume he's going to want either a 7 or 8 year long deal. And again, do you want to pay that for a player, who's in his prime right now and is going to start to probably decline here over the next couple of seasons? So again, man, a lot of parallels between the Sharks and the Flames. Just go back 2 years ago with the replace Lindholm with Tomas Hertl, and you basically have the same question. So before we continue, we kind of review what the Flames did this offseason. We talk about their draft and all that fun stuff. Do need to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our good friends over at FanDuel. And if you want to take your first swing at betting on MLB on FanDuel, they've got you covered, because you get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on betting everything from the money line to over under, who you think is going to hit the first home run. Again, just keep betting Ohtani to hit home runs, and you're probably going to have a great time with it. So the dude's an absolute machine. You can do this all in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Jess, so the Flames offseason. Let's start with the draft, which came first. I know the Flames had a first round pick that they used on was it Oliver Moore? Who did they pick?
It
in the
was
first round?
Samuel Hosenbeck or something like that. I'm horrible with remembering names, but from what I've gathered, it's a pretty solid first round pick.
Samuel Honzik, the center out
Honzik,
of the from the Vancouver Giants in the WHL. So there you go. Sorry.
Yeah, he has a few more years, I think, to develop in the W, and then hopefully make the leap to the AHL. If not, at least get some time in Calgary playing on the NHL roster, because who knows what that roster is going to look like in 3 years. So, I think, their biggest issue, I think, is actually developing these players. It's great to see, 23 on a nice jersey with a name on it, but if you can't make something out of someone you thought was good enough to draft, then what you got to take a look at what's going on inside.
Yeah, and you're hoping with the new front office and new coaching staff and hopefully new development staff here that you can kind of work on getting that situated going forward. I know Eaton Morin is their second round pick of defenseman out of the Q. He's pretty highly rated. I know a lot of people picked him as a potential kind of maybe even for that Sharks pick at 36, and they got him at 48. Who's a 6 foot tall left-handed defenseman, and adding another goalie to the prospect pipeline for them. It seems like that is the one thing that the Flames do well, is they do develop their goalies very well. Dustin Wolf says hi. Yeah, the Sharks he was right there in the backyard. I'm never gonna get over that. Right there in your own backyard, and you gave up. So with it, so the draft, I know. We'll see. That's with every draft pick, right? We'll see what they develop. Free agency. What did the Flames? Let's get a nice recap of free agency for you guys. What did the Flames do?
Lots of depth signings. You have to fill out your rosters in the AHL and the NHL. So you got to employ some people that make not as much money as your middle six guys, because there's a cap, salary cap. So, I think a lot of it has just been that depth and just, again, employing people. Milan Lucic left, Trevor Lewis left.
Tyler Toffoli.
Tyler Toffoli was traded. It's just, been a lot of turnover, but again, I think for the most part, it's for the better. I know a lot of people have been excited about Lucic's money coming off the books. It's already tied up in Huberdeau, so you don't really have that relief of $6.5 million anymore. Just being like, oh, it's right there. But so you can't go out and use that to sign players, unfortunately. But I think that Craig Conroy he's been cooking, but I don't know if he's turned the stove on yet. I don't know if the water's boiling.
I mean, yeah, the team's already was pretty cap strapped going into the free agency, and they're still, even as of right now, they're still slightly over the cap right now. So, I mean, they're going to have to try to get cap compliant, and then you still have Oliver Shellington, who's kind of, I know he's missed basically all. Was it all of last year or most of last year?
All of last year.
All of last year, and I know he was considered a big piece for them going forward. What's up with him? What's up with Shellington? Is he expected to be back, or is this just LTR? We never see him again. You think?
I hope that he isn't just shelved forever. I mean, he has definitely made it clear that he's interested in coming back. He did take last year to kind of work on his mental health, and he was supposed to potentially come back at around December. probably for the best that he didn't, because that environment was not conducive for anyone, let alone someone who's kind of working their way out of a vulnerable position. But Flame social media have been reposting his clips of him skating. That's one thing that we've seen a lot, is him active on social media with his strength training and his skating. So he's letting fans know that he's still interested, and I really think we'll see him back.
So, I mean, if you get him back, that's still another $2.5 million you're going to have to kind of squeeze in there. So, I mean, it seems like they have at least one more move they're going to have to make to get under the cap. So, who's the guy you're kind of maybe circling as they may not be long for Calgary?
Right now, I would say it's kind of neck and neck with Dan Vladar and Noah Hanifin. I think that both of those make the most sense for the Flames. They want Dustin Wolf to be playing at the NHL level. You don't need to start the season with 3 goalies. It doesn't set you up for success. It just shows that you don't have confidence, in my opinion. But I think that Noah Hanifin will obviously be traded out. I think that he has made it very clear that he wants to go back to America, and I don't blame him. I get it, but I'd want to be closer to my family too. But those 2 guys, and then Michael Backlund as well, who was offered the captaincy, and if he signed an extension, and he hasn't budged on that. So I think, it's either retirement or get me out of here. So again, we're waiting.
All right. What's the kind of, I guess we kind of answered the biggest remaining question, but I'm going to kind of go back to the goalies, right? Dustin Wolf is a great prospect and should be playing NHL games. Markstrom had a really bad season last year, and then you had Dan Vladar, who's shown promise at times, but hasn't really kind of blossomed into the goalie that you'd expect. So, what do you kind of expect to shake out with there? And is Markstrom, hopefully maybe last year was just a blip in the radar, and then you have Wolf kind of being that second, maybe playing like 30 games in the NHL while Markstrom's kind of still taking the majority of the games. Is that the hope, at least?
Yeah, to me that makes the most sense in what the consensus around the fan base is, because Markstrom was never going to be bought out this summer. It made no sense. It was just one bad year, a very big contract. You weren't saving yourself any money. And Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar, neither of them are capable of being NHL quality starters. Dustin Wolf has proved everything he needs to the AHL. I really would like to see him make that smooth transition to the NHL, but he might fumble a little bit. It's only natural. You're playing up against some guys who are probably closer to twice your age rather than college age kids. So I think that Markstrom bounces back. I don't think it's going to be the Vezina candidate that we saw 2 years ago, but I also don't think it's going to be bottom of the barrel last year. I think he's beat himself up enough. He knows what he needs to do to be better. Again, coaching change, probably a better environment. Everyone's probably a little happier. So,
I wonder the workload, right? Last year he played 59 games. The year before he played 63. In the bubble season, he played 43 out of 56 potential games. I think getting him a competent backup could just do the wonder. If you're not playing, maybe if you're like the 53 to 55 range instead of playing 60 to 63, would probably do wonders for a guy like that who's starting to creep up there a little bit in age. So before we get into kind of the 2023-2024 preview, do want to again thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly a part of the Locked On Network, We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. We'll be back next week with some more fun stuff. For this week, if you missed my conversation with Sharks draft pick Luca Caglioni, make sure you guys go check that out. That came out on Wednesday. So great conversation with hopefully what's going to be a steal of a pick for the Sharks with Luca Caglioni. So, Jess, this season, what is the best and worst case scenario for this team, you think?
Best case scenario is they make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just a wild card spot. I am not. Yeah, I'm not picky. You just do what you got to do to get there. Worst case scenario is we have somewhat of a repeat of last season. I really don't think it could be that bad. I mean, 17 overtime losses, I think 19 one-goal game losses, led the league in posts hit and whatnot. So, like, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I feel like if that happens again, you just have to just sage the entire arena. You have to relocate. Like, you truly have to up and leave because there's something going on there. Again, worst case scenario is anything like last year.
I mean, yeah, that's that creamy middle I talk about. There's nothing worse than being the creamy middle team, right? You have your directionless, right? You either, if you're a playoff team, you can talk yourselves into it. Maybe it's like a Vancouver thing where you talk yourselves into it, but it's the wrong idea. I still have this up. I'm so bad. I just realized. Sorry, I got distracted by my own inability to produce. Being a creamy middle team is the absolute word. It's the killer of a franchise because you have no direction. And I think that's the worst case scenario for a lot of teams, especially a team like Calgary, where this is an important year for them, right? You have to try to figure out what you are, especially under new leadership and new coaching. And maybe this year, right, you get some new coaching. Maybe everything's a little bit more kumbaya in the locker room. You can kind of pull together. Markstrom, you can see it, right? Markstrom bounces back. Everybody's not miserable just coming to the arena, coming to the rink, and this team could be a potential playoff team. You still have good players around, right? Mm-hmm. You looking at the roster, right? Like I said, if Markstrom has a bounce back season, you have Huberdeau, you've got Kadri, you've got Mangiapane, like you've got some good players on this team. You have Matthew Coronado, who I think is going to be an outstanding player in the future. Like you can kind of squint and see like this could be a playoff caliber team. But yeah, I think the worst case scenario is they just repeat last year and they're stuck in the middle and you don't know what to do with this team, right?
Yeah, that's, I'm just hoping that there really is some sort of fun just pumped into this, like, into camp and everything, because they need it. Last year, guys were so miserable, and I don't blame them. It was not fun watching this team. I cannot imagine how miserable it was clocking in and having to go play.
Do you think Daryl Sutter actually had like the old school like clock where you have to like punch it? Punch in, even check the time cards and stuff.
Oh yeah, you see your name on like the lineup card, and you're like, okay, I'm here. Oh yeah.
All right. Who is the most important player for this team to have success?
Jacob Markstrom. Unfortunately, this team does not have any high-end high-end scoring talent anymore, really, unfortunately, with Gaudreau and Tkachuk leaving, and Tyler Toffoli led the team in points last year. And so Markstrom has, again, a lot of pressure on him, but I think the defense is obviously, one of the stronger parts of the Flames, so he'll have a lot of support in that aspect. So I really think that as long as he can save like 1 or 2 goals extra a week, we'll be okay. Like they'll get by.
Flames 2-1 games. Come enjoy the fun.
Yeah. The Flames are back. So back.
Put that on the banner. 2-1 games. Come have fun. I mean, yeah, the goaltending, is Markstrom erases a lot of issues, and I know that the defense is going to be, a big key part of it. But having Markstrom return to form and being an upper echelon, type of goaltender is going to be huge for this team. But yeah, I agree with you with the scoring, where it's probably going to be a lot of low scoring events. You're hoping Markstrom and just goes Superman most nights, right?
Yeah, we're just gonna keep our fingers crossed.
All right. Who's going to be a either impact rookie or young player for this team?
I have 3.
Okay.
Dustin Wolf, obviously. I think that is a given.
Mhm.
It's time, and I'm sure Markstrom is begging for a little
And
relief.
he needs a vacation
Yeah, he needs
occasionally.
a friend.
Yes.
And I think it'd be a great opportunity for him to mentor the
Mhm.
kid before leaving in 2 seasons. Or 2 or 3 seasons actually.
3.
Matthew 3. Oh, good. We've still got time. Matthew Coronado coming out of Harvard. I think that he is going to be absolutely fantastic. I just, I was really excited with that draft pick, and to watch him have the success that he had last season with Harvard. It
Mhm.
was incredible. And I really hope that it translates well into the NHL. Again, not expecting him to have a flawless transition into the NHL, but just something, a crumb of offense would be nice. And along with him, Jacob Pelletier. This kid just deserves so much better than what last season was. Between Daryl Sutter's "what number was he" comment, and
Yeah.
I was at the game in LA where they got blown out like 8-2.
Mhm.
Pelletier made a turnover, like he turned over the puck. The game was like 5-2,
Yeah.
and Sutter benched him for the rest of the game. And I was like, oh, good. The one thing I wanted to, I had to look forward to a young, speedy player, and now I just have to watch the old men.
The old men play. Yeah, I mean, Coronado, I think is going to be a big, and hopefully with new coaching and not a dinosaur mentality of the young guys have to earn it on the fourth line to work themselves, like put young guys in positions to succeed, right?
Yeah.
If they're skilled players, put them with other skilled players and watch them flourish. That's what good teams do with their development. That helps their development, right? Is not
Right.
anchoring them with these, guys who don't fit their skills. So, all right, last question. Where do they finish in the Pacific?
Fourth. Yeah.
Okay, so who are they jumping? Yeah, Vegas finished first last year. Edmonton was second. LA was third. Seattle was fourth.
Yeah.
And then Calgary, Vancouver, San Jose, and Anaheim.
So it'll be Anaheim, Vancouver, the Sharks, and maybe Seattle. Maybe Seattle. I don't know. Yeah. I have no. I said that they were going to finish second last year, so anything I say is not going to happen.
I did say the Sharks are going to be one of the 5 worst teams last year, and I nailed that. So
you did.
I did nail that. So Jess, you've said it all. Where can the people find you?
Yes, so you can find the show wherever you listen to Locked On Sharks, just Locked On Flames. It's a great time over there where we just bathe and bask in hope and negativity. But really, there's a lot of good content coming. You can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto and the show at LO_FlamesPod on X, on Twitter, whatever it's called. Yeah, and just have fun. Really, just you cannot take any of this too seriously. Otherwise, you're just going to be miserable.
Locked Flames 2023-24. You're gonna be miserable. You can of course follow Locked On Sharks wherever you get podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter and Threads at My Fry Hole. And until next week, bye, friends.